Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta. Now we will teach the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. We are now teaching the second chapter, the Prajna chapter. As mentioned before, we also discussed in our last session, if one wishes to enter the profound Dharmadhatu, the Samadhi of Prajna, one must recite the Diamond Prajna Sutra, which is the Diamond Sutra. Through reciting, studying, and practicing the Diamond Sutra, one will definitely obtain immeasurable merit. This has been explained through metaphors. Now for today's content, if people of the Mahayana, if people of the supreme vehicle, upon hearing the Diamond Sutra being taught, their minds open and they awaken. Following from the previous content, if they are Mahayana practitioners of the exoteric teachings, or those with the highest faculties within the exoteric teachings, with excellent spiritual capacity, like those with the faculties suitable for the esoteric teachings, people of the supreme vehicle, if they hear someone teaching the Diamond Sutra, the blessings of the Diamond Sutra and the power of prajna emptiness, such people will sooner or later experience mind-opening, awakening, and great enlightenment. They will definitely recognize the original face of their own mind and simultaneously understand all phenomena thoroughly. Here we are teaching the Diamond Sutra. We have already discussed the merits of the Diamond Sutra earlier. In between, we took a break for about a month, and today we continue from where we left off. Originally, I intended to finish this entire passage, but I don't know what circumstances led to this passage not being completed at that time. When I looked at it today, I felt this was actually quite good. Perhaps this was also an auspicious connection. When speaking of auspicious connections, I don't mean that everything should be called an auspicious connection. Actually, many elderly people in Tibetan areas, those who are older, in their entire way of life and customs, they habitually speak of many, many auspicious connections. Some may be folk sayings that I don't quite believe in, but some indeed, when you observe them in life, still have profound meaning. Including many Terma masters in Tibetan Buddhism, indeed in their lives, rely on numerous auspicious connections to finally determine their future activities. For Terma masters, if the auspicious connection is damaged, many major undertakings later become irreparable. Such phenomena are quite common in the history of Tibetan Buddhism. In the past, when going out together with His Holiness, especially when His Holiness went to certain sacred mountains, because His Holiness generally revealed Terma teachings at special sacred places, usually at ordinary monasteries or in cities, His Holiness never revealed Terma teachings. For Terma masters throughout history, most Terma teachings were revealed at sacred places. Each time we arrived at sacred places, those around His Holiness had to say good things about everything. For example, how is the weather today? Even if the weather was very bad, everyone was afraid of damaging the auspicious connection. The weather is very good, very good. For example, when His Holiness was teaching at a sacred place, was the attendance good today? Even if there weren't many people, they would say, there are very many, many people. His Holiness was also very wise. You are deliberately telling lies just to create good auspicious connections. What's the use of that? He would say this too. But regardless, indeed, we had to pay attention to this aspect frequently. We couldn't help but pay attention. Sometimes, indeed, due to careless words, auspicious connections were damaged later. This is also in some of His Holiness's biographies. Some haven't been written down, but actually occurred in lived experience. So auspicious connections cannot all be considered as everything being a bad connection. Some of our Dharma friends say, doing this creates bad connections. Doing that also creates bad connections. This is just their own nonsense. Prostrating before the master creates bad connections. Not prostrating also creates bad connections. Your empty bowl creates bad connections. Wearing clothes like this also creates bad connections. This is just one's own discriminating thought speaking. Actually, it's not like that. But sometimes in life, I do acknowledge certain auspicious connections. For example, today, regarding the Diamond Sutra that we were teaching earlier, we reached the middle part. In the middle, we took a break, and I also went out for a period of time. But when I looked at it today, we are continuing directly from the last class. Actually, this was only a few sentences that should have been finished at that time. I wonder if this is an auspicious connection. I'm not certain. I'm questioning. Because recently, last year, I completed 2 books. One is called Suffering is Life. Another is called Doing is Getting. Later, because the publisher and other Buddhists often said, now there are many books with content similar to Suffering is Life. Many people are also writing now, but what is more needed is somewhat deeper Buddhist content. Previously, I think it was when His Holiness was teaching the heart essence of the Master, I taught the Diamond Sutra. At that time, I may have made 2 or 3 different versions. Later, through different editing processes, there was the Diamond Sutra commentary and the Diamond Sutra teaching record. After considering for a long time, I felt it was necessary to express the Diamond Sutra commentary in modern language, basically following the original principles, then adding some content from my usual teachings, including some of my reflections on emptiness from my Weibo and blog, combining them together. It was published last year, or this year I should say. Starting from last year, a book was published called Ability to Cut. The Diamond Sutra empowers you. Originally, it was Ability to Cut, Diamond Prajna Paramita Sutra. Tang Xuanzang also translated it this way. When I was teaching it, I felt that for the Diamond Sutra, with my limited wisdom in teaching it, I still had certain realizations. When I was teaching it, some Dharma friends here may have listened. At that time, I referenced some teachings by Master Kamala Shila from India. Originally, there were also teachings by Vasubandhu and Asanga, but at that time it was mainly Master Kamala Shila's teaching. I compared the 6 versions from the Han region by Xuanzang and Kumarajiva. Many teachings from ancient and modern times from China and abroad. At that time, unlike now, the academy didn't have so many matters, so every day I would very carefully observe. Later, at the end of the Diamond Sutra commentary, I wrote some verses myself and made some grand claims. Later on, I felt that our society has now become internationalized. Although I discovered certain excellences in some places, one cannot offend people in speech. In later teaching records, it was basically written in very modern language that is very suitable for people of any sect and any spiritual capacity. I revised it. Why am I saying this today? Because this book has just obtained an official ISBN from the publisher. It has been printed in very large quantities in various places. It just came out recently. I only saw the first copy last night when a lay practitioner brought it to me. Originally on the computer, the cover design and everything were all arranged by us. But the actual book, I only saw it last night. I asked, where did you buy this? He said he bought it online. Our Academy's Dharma friends haven't received it yet. Actually, the content doesn't differ much from before. But what is its characteristic? We use modern language, easily understandable language, to explain the meaning of prajna, emptiness. I especially hope that although people nowadays understand some things, for example, simple dharma, sayings and truths, how to transform suffering into the path. But this kind of realization is not very deep. One must use the emptiness realization of prajna to suppress and eradicate afflictions. This is greatly needed. In order to achieve this, the Diamond Prajna Paramita Sutra has uncommon blessings and power. At the same time, as ordinary beings, regarding the bodhisattva's state, we can gradually enter through this. Therefore, I especially hope, actually for Suffering is Life, I didn't think there were many truths in it, but relying on the blessings of the lineage masters, the effect it produced was beyond expectation. Ability to cut. The Diamond Sutra Empowered just came out recently, but I'm told it has been reprinted many times. Perhaps there are also benefits from the profound prajna emptiness. Actually, when I was teaching it, I was also very excited. At that time, I also translated the especially precious stories about the Diamond Sutra discovered in Tibetan areas. The Sutra of the Merits of the Diamond, this was also translated. At that time, for a period of time, you might all remember, whoever asked what sutra to recite, I would say recite the Diamond Sutra. I am just this type of person who gets excited about Dharma texts. For example, when I previously taught the extensive biography of Shakyamuni and finished it in about a year, when others asked what book to read, I'd say read the extensive biography of Shakyamuni. When I taught the words of my perfect teacher, about a year after finishing it, I taught it again. Whoever asked what book I should read, I'd say read the words of my perfect teacher. I myself feel this is especially good and others will definitely benefit. So for a period of time, I also required everyone, whoever it was, to read the Diamond Sutra. And I kept saying this. The Sixth Patriarch also attained enlightenment through the Diamond Sutra. We have talked about this before, haven't we? At that time, he heard someone reciting the Diamond Sutra. Through this connection, he went to the Fifth Patriarch at Huangmei and studied under him for 8 months. Later one day, it seems the Fifth Patriarch knocked 3 times. He understood the 3 knocks meant the 3rd watch of the night. Then in the evening, he went to his master. The master, because the situation was quite complicated at that time, covered all the windows with his Dharma robe. He taught him alone, like transmitting secret instructions in the tantric teachings. He taught him the Diamond Sutra. Finally, at the passage, one should give rise to a mind that abides nowhere. He became enlightened there. So in the history of the Han region, it is a text that is extremely like the liberation through wearing and Dzogchen in Tibetan areas, a classic text that makes enlightenment very accessible. Therefore, as Buddhists, beyond the words, behind them there is an inconceivable power. This power is called blessings in Buddhism. This blessing is the faith of those with connection, the uncommon wisdom and aspirations of the transmitter, and their blessings. When causes and conditions come together, they probably play a great role. So the day before yesterday, I specifically posted Ability to Cut, the Diamond Sutra empowers you on Weibo. Some people told me, you shouldn't promote it. The publisher is starting to make money. There's no need for you to deliberately do this. I said at that time, as long as it benefits sentient beings even a little, actually Ability to Cut, the Diamond Sutra empowers. You, the publisher, sells it for 38 yuan. Actually, this is the cost of a cup of coffee, if one truly gains benefit. For city people nowadays, this may not be much. If there's no benefit, then it's not worthwhile. So I was thinking some Dharma texts I seem to deliberately promote, but actually it's not. My current mindset is completely different from when I first came to the Academy. They are completely different. When I first came, for example, regarding my own Dharma texts, including when a photo appeared in a Dharma text, I felt especially ashamed and criticized many Dharma friends. But now, if this, for example, this Dharma text, last year they said this text must have. Later I felt if it truly benefits others, even though I'm quite unattractive, putting it on there doesn't matter. Being thick-skinned doesn't matter either, because nowadays some people are of various types. Present-day people are quite strange. Some people show only half their face. They think, wow, this strange person might be interesting. There are all kinds. So some of them feel that in this book, the other day at the airport, I saw someone buying Suffering is Life. And he said, this bald person is also writing books. Who is this person? He was very curious. Who exactly is this person? Let me buy a book. Then he was buying it while I was laughing quietly behind him. Sometimes I myself don't really care, whether appearing publicly or whatever, as long as it helps others a little. If it can influence others through correct reasoning, I also feel it doesn't matter. Whatever others say about me is like air. It disappears in a moment. Some say good things, some say bad things. This is not important. What's most important is that our minds undergo some change. So I myself was thinking, this time the new edition of the Diamond Sutra came out, and this, it seems there's a little connection. Perhaps there is, perhaps there isn't. If there isn't, it's fine to consider it discriminating thoughts. But sometimes, as I just said, I still cannot help but believe in auspicious connections. I also want to tell you about another auspicious connection. Am I becoming superstitious? Once on Weibo, I posted about Colombian coffee. The second time in class, I also mentioned Colombian coffee. But at that time, I didn't explain it in detail. Today, for the third time, I'm telling this true story of an auspicious connection, because auspicious connections are very marvelous. Last year at Mount Wutai, I made a vow to recite the prayer of the Great Freedom 10,000 times. Later, I decided on a number. When I left Mount Wutai and returned to Beijing at the airport, I was alone. At that time, the initial vow I had made was already completed. Right after finishing, I first spoke to my own mind, saying to myself, I want to observe the auspicious connection. Right after finishing the number I had set for the prayer of the Great Freedom at the airport, I was very tired and had coffee. While drinking coffee, I looked at it. I asked the server, "What kind of coffee is this?" She said, "Colombian coffee." I use this one. At that moment, I received an invitation letter from Columbia University because previously there was an invitation from Harvard, from the North Shore Buddhist Association. Many people here know about this. At that time, I half agreed, half didn't agree, because handling procedures here had certain difficulties. So I dropped it and didn't completely agree. But later I thought this year's vow, the Colombian coffee and the university invitation letter seemed to match remarkably well. This is also very marvelous. Later, I agreed and prepared all the related materials. After preparation was complete, when I mentioned it briefly in class that day, I was afraid of obstacles, so I didn't say much then. Some of you may remember, some may not. When I first posted it on Weibo, the first auspicious connection, many people said, "Don't drink coffee, otherwise your stomach won't be good," etc. The second time I mentioned it, among you Dharma friends, some may not have understood. The third time, I must speak about it today. Because of this matter, after receiving this invitation letter, I also prepared everything. This trip to America was mainly to Columbia and Harvard. Among them, Columbia was the main inviting party. That day, we were in Beijing at the American Embassy in China. The person at that embassy was an American. We gave him the invitation letter and passport for visa application. Generally, sometimes these foreigners, if they're not happy, they won't issue visas. Previously, when His Holiness went to America, I also went to the consulate in Chengdu for visa application. Fortunately, when he saw ordained people, he issued visas for all of us. But at that time, I saw several college students and teachers. He just looked at them. And when he was a bit unhappy, not only did he not issue visas, he also stamped another mark, meaning they couldn't go out for a year. Many people there were utterly devastated. That day I was also a bit anxious. I wondered whether his responses to each person were different. Some he treated quite well, asking them to wait. Sometimes he said, "Come back in about 10 days. There were such cases too. That day I handed him the invitation letter and passport. The foreigner looked at them and said, "Wait a moment." I thought, maybe it's not going to work. He said, "The computer is working, please wait a moment." Then I waited a bit more. Later, he looked at the invitation letter. Columbia, excellent. At that time, there were also several Dharma friends beside me. Later, he quickly agreed. This was an auspicious connection. When I went to Columbia to give teachings, I drank this coffee again. At that time, there was a translator called Dorje. He was a Tibetan. Then I explained to him, it was very wonderful. We had a brief preliminary meeting in advance. I roughly told him about what would be taught today. Just before going on stage, I said I was tired and wanted to have some coffee or something. It seemed another Dharma friend brought it, and it was also this coffee. I said, "This is very wonderful." That day I also drank this, and today I'm going there again. It seems there is an auspicious connection. I must drink it. Later he said, "When you give the teaching, you must talk about this auspicious connection." I said, "I cannot talk about this. Those Westerners don't even accept the true Dharma. If I talk about auspicious connections, they will shake their heads even more." I absolutely cannot talk about it today, so I did not speak about it in front of them. In front of you all, perhaps the Dharma friends here also do not accept it. I also don't really accept it either. Actually, this kind of auspicious connection may contain a kind of superstition, but behind superstition there is also a kind of illusory, dreamlike phenomenon. Perhaps it will make you more and more confused. Now we will begin teaching the Diamond Sutra. Through the Diamond Sutra, one can indeed attain awakening, because it is the teaching of Prajnaparamita. No matter what kind of person encounters it, they actually have the karmic conditions for awakening. Previously, when we studied the verse summary of Prajnaparamita, we also quoted some scriptural citations from the Prajnaparamita Sutras. For example, it says, a person lost their way in a forest. He searches everywhere in the middle of the night. Finally, when he sees lights outside, he will know that he has left the forest and will reach the city. Similarly, ordinary beings who are lost in cyclic existence, when they encounter the teachings of prajna, it means you have hope for liberation. The shore of samsara will soon end, and you will reach the other shore of nirvana. For us sitting here now on the surface, it seems we are listening to the Diamond Sutra by coincidence. On the surface, what we teach, for example, the ornament of clear realization, or the Platform Sutra that we are now teaching, these are all profound prajna teachings. But these prajna teachings may seem coincidental on the surface. Actually, they are indeed the inevitable karmic conditions for everyone to practice virtue together. I do not feel that we are all here today because of a coincidence. It should be that everyone has had an agreement for a very long time. There should be such karmic conditions. When you encounter the teachings of emptiness, it truly deserves deep contemplation, and you must cherish it. In this life, during your brief human existence, you must never abandon the teachings of emptiness. Otherwise, if you continue to be lost again, that would be very pitiful. For example, in such a very dense forest, you are about to leave this forest and arrive at the city. But if you enter the forest again, when will you find the original path? In the Vinaya Sutra, it often says, our wisdom can sometimes be obscured by evil companions. Sometimes it can be obscured by adverse environments. Therefore, Dharma friends in the assembly, if you are often together with your friends, with Buddhists, people with right knowledge and view, or people who study in quiet places, perhaps your wisdom and virtuous roots will increasingly grow. If you do not do this, your original wisdom will gradually become obscured, and new greed, anger, and delusion will increase. I see it said in the Vinaya Sutra, for example, a person originally has much potential, some function of wisdom potential. But this wisdom, by associating with someone who studies arts and crafts, the habits of arts and crafts can increase while the others gradually diminish. If you rely on a friend versed in medical science, then your potential will develop in medical science. If you rely on, for example, drug users, now in the world there are many people who are not in accordance with the Dharma. When you associate with them, you will also develop in another direction. We ordinary beings are very much related to our environment and to the people we associate with. Therefore, regarding the wisdom of prajna emptiness, I especially hope that everyone in the future will be with people and environments of right knowledge and view. Also, having these Dharma texts constantly accompanying oneself is very important. It says here, if people of the highest vehicle hear the Diamond Sutra, they can also awaken, obtaining the meaning of awakening. How does one awaken through the Diamond Sutra? Is this method of awakening completely dependent on an external book to awaken, or do the karmic conditions for awakening exist within oneself? Actually, the most fundamental karmic conditions are still possessed by oneself. Therefore, know that one's nature originally has the wisdom of prajna. Using one's own wisdom, constantly observing, does not rely on written words. It says here, although we say we awaken through the Diamond Sutra, actually, the original awareness for awakening, the original prajna wisdom, should be possessed by oneself. If we do not have prajna wisdom, then no matter how many Diamond Sutras there are, it is useless. Actually, the Diamond Sutra is established according to people's thoughts and people's capacities. The words established by the Buddha, I remember it will also be mentioned later, So originally oneself has such natural primordial wisdom. People have Buddha nature. Having such Buddha nature, one uses wisdom to begin observing oneself. At the same time, the Diamond Sutra merely plays a role as a manifestation of wisdom. Actually, truly recognizing one's own nature does not rely on any written words. Why does Chan not establish written words? In the end, there is no need to establish any written words. What is the reason for this? Because the nature actually does not need to rely on anything. The nature originally cannot be expressed with words. Then does that mean written words are not needed? Actually, that is not the case either. In the end, they are not needed, but in the beginning, they are needed. Our tantric teachings are also like this. Tantric teachings also, in the end, when one realizes the nature of mind, written words are not needed. Therefore, the Buddha also said, I have never taught any Dharma at all. But before this, do beginners need it or not? They do need it. Below is a very good analogy about the difference between self-nature and written words. For example, rainwater is not from the sky. Originally, it is the dragon that can manifest it, causing all sentient beings, all plants and trees, sentient and insentient, to all receive moisture. Hundreds of streams and rivers flow back into the great ocean, merging into one body. The prajna wisdom of sentient beings' original nature is also like this. For example, the rainwater that descends from the sky, on the surface it seems as if it descends from the sky. Actually, it is not bestowed by celestial beings, nor is the sky existing separately. With the sky existing separately, accumulating much rainwater, having no relationship whatsoever with the ground and ocean, then descending. Actually, it is not like this. The source of all rainwater in the sky is actually the dragon manifesting it, the great ocean where dragons dwell. Actually, whether it is modern science or our ordinary worldly language, there are celestial beings in the sky, there are dragons in the sea. The Buddhist sutras also say this. Where the dragon kings dwell is the great ocean. It is actually bestowed by the great ocean. The rainwater bestowed by the great ocean, on the surface it seems it can benefit all sentient beings. When rainwater descends, for example, after rainwater descends, people can use it. They can also drink it themselves. Also, all the plants and trees in the world, sentient and insentient, can all be moistened, and this rainwater gradually becomes hundreds of streams and rivers, gradually flowing into the great ocean, merging into one body. At such time, we all know, when we see it in the world, all the rainwater descending from the sky actually comes from the great ocean. The Buddhist sutras also say this. Perhaps if the Buddhist sutras did not say this, worldly people in the past would not have accepted it. I often see when reading Buddhist sutras, Buddhist learning is truly astronomy, anthropology, geography, any field of study is all in the Buddhist sutras. How does it explain this? Our current astronomers, including some scholars, also say this. Looking from the moon, our planet is a very beautiful blue planet. 70% of the entire planet is seawater, 30% is land. This 30% of land actually sits within the great ocean. On our land, what is the source of all water? Originally, it is all from the great ocean where we ourselves dwell. On the surface, it seems to descend from the sky. Actually, we do not know. Previously, it seems we studied natural science. At that time, it also said, the hot vapor from the ocean rises into the sky. When it contacts cold air, it becomes rainwater and begins to descend. Originally, when we talked about it, is this possible? Where exactly is the great ocean? We cannot see the ocean from here. But actually now, including when I often take airplanes, I realize that what I did not understand when studying natural science, I now understand. Originally, clouds are not very high. They are in the middle. In very high places, there are not even clouds. Actually, the air from the ocean is in the middle. When it meets cold air, it gradually descends. After this happens, the rainwater in the entire world actually comes from our ocean. Similarly, although we now on the surface see the Diamond Sutra outside, the words of prajna outside, they are all on the surface, they seem to be outside. Actually, they are manifestations of our own prajna, sublime nature. the great ocean of prajna, the manifestations of the great ocean of clear wisdom in our minds. Outside, it becomes like the Diamond Sutra. Through the Diamond Sutra, through the rainwater outside, it seems to moisten all things. Similarly, the Diamond Sutra moistens my mind. Actually, it is the Diamond Sutra emerging from my originally existing wisdom. The Diamond Sutra and my prajna sublime nature, my original awareness wisdom, are non-dual and inseparable. One could say this. Actually, this analogy truly uses a natural scientific analogy to explain the comparison between textual prajna and self-nature prajna. Everyone can also do this. The prajna wisdom of sentient beings' original nature is also like this. Everyone should deeply contemplate the principles just explained. When we learn a piece of knowledge, we still hope to recognize the difference between textual prajna and inner prajna. Just now, using the analogy of seawater and rainwater from the sky to explain, actually this is very important. Usually when we often look at Dharma texts, we are also very joyful about the Dharma texts. But actually, these Dharma texts are a kind of self-manifestation of our wisdom. The Buddha understood this self-manifestation of wisdom. Therefore, the Buddha, according to sentient beings, different self-manifestations of wisdom, established written words and left them for us, reminding us that through this textual prajna we realize our original nature, very much hoping that this rainwater will finally merge into one body with the great ocean. All Dharma texts also, through such karmic conditions, cause our minds to completely awaken. Sometimes these confused and drifting sentient beings very much need a kind of special blessing, inspiration, and guidance. This is very important. Otherwise, if we use generally, especially simple language to comfort, it may not necessarily resolve the great matter of life and death. Good friends, people of small capacity hearing this sudden teaching are like plants and trees. Those whose root nature is small, if covered by heavy rain, all collapse by themselves, unable to grow. People of small capacity are also like this. Just now, did we not say, after obtaining prajna emptiness, one can awaken? Then does that mean all people who hear the Diamond Sutra, who hear prajna emptiness, will all immediately awaken at that moment? Will this happen? It will not. The rainwater descending from the sky is beneficial to ordinary crops and all things. After heavy rain descends, after the rain passes, the entire natural environment is very beautiful. But torrential heavy rain, for some small grass and small trees, may be a great destruction. It says here, good friends, you should know, not every person can accept the teachings of prajna emptiness. Some people, after looking at the Diamond Sutra, may develop hostile thoughts. Recently, I see originally the scope of our teaching was relatively small. Now publishing a book, perhaps many people watch online. For the time being, it seems people with small grass and tree root capacities have not been seen. But generally speaking, they will also be seen. Perhaps, oh, this is emptiness, how, and so forth, especially among some people now. Indeed, they do not understand the teachings of emptiness, do not understand tantric teachings, even slander them. Some people are very pitiful. There are especially many such people. It is also said here, for some people with inferior capacity, those with poor capacities, hearing sudden teachings like the Diamond Sutra and Prajnaparamita Sutras, teachings that bring sudden awakening, not gradually, prajna emptiness, immediately cutting off your afflictions. Such a teaching. After you hear such teachings, originally you are small grass and trees, not like towering trees with especially deep roots, deeply rooted. They are just on the surface, on the epidermis, having a small little root. If the rainwater is especially heavy, then under the rainwater, they naturally collapse, naturally disintegrate, all disappear. In the end, they also can never grow. After a beating of rainwater, perhaps some small trees, small flowers, we also often see they have already died, never to return. Some small children also, after heavy rain descends, many flowers are already not okay. Then some small children also look, my little flower, you have already died. There is no way to recover. Please wake up. But actually, it has already gone. There is no way. Similarly, some people with not very good capacities obtained human birth. But because they encounter the profound prajna teachings, emptiness teachings, they really have no way to accept. Now, in the world, there are also tens of thousands of people who slander slander Mahayana Buddhism, people who slander Tantric Buddhism, actually truly using correct reasoning to slander, no one would have such ability. Up to now, I have also heard some people make various remarks about Mahayana Buddhism, but they absolutely do not dare to debate with you face to face. If debating completely with very rigorous logic, they do not have this courage. It is only because of their own root capacity they have no way to accept. In the end, they themselves developed wrong views, and their virtuous roots have no way to recover. Such phenomena are quite numerous. Therefore, people with small capacities, people with evil, inferior capacities, are also exactly like this. I capacity is not very good. I also hope you all also need not begin studying prajna from the start. For example, like the ornament of clear realization, or prajna emptiness, like the 6 treatises of the Middle Way, prajna classics, including reciting the Heart Sutra and Diamond Sutra. For ordinary people, it is very difficult. If in your past life you have some capacity in entering the Middle Way, it also says, if in your past life you had the realization of prajna emptiness, when you get this Dharma text, there is an indescribable joyful mind. Now, in the Han region, some people, truly their root capacity may be very good. Originally, when I investigated 125 intellectuals in the Han region when writing Ocean of Wisdom, actually among them there were many people. At the beginning, they were also inexplicably, after seeing the Diamond Sutra, developed incomparable joyful mind. Then every day they read it. Therefore, for sentient beings in the Han region, the Heart Sutra and Diamond Sutra indeed have a special karmic connection. Many people, all awakened through this, entered the Buddhist gate through this. When one looks, it seems inside. Many people who do not understand Madhyamaka, speaking back and forth, one moment saying exists, one moment saying does not exist, one moment saying yes, one moment saying no. In this way, it causes people confusion. But many people have faith in this teaching. This is the same as what is explained in entering the Middle Way. If one truly has virtuous roots from past lives, when there is a slight karmic condition in this life, perhaps oneself will also be very shocked, very surprised. The entire body may tremble. Some people, when encountering prajna emptiness and Mahayana Buddhism, still have especially strong responses. This can also happen. But some people with not very good root capacities, after encountering these teachings, may completely destroy both themselves and others. Earlier, we spoke about the merits of the Diamond Sutra. Then we said, can all people accept this kind of teaching? Not necessarily. Rainwater is also like this. Among crops, some relatively good crops can accept it. After the rain, they indeed mature very quickly. But for some small trees and small grass, it is a kind of disaster. Similarly, for some people with not very good capacities, when you seek great teachings, for you it is also a kind of disaster. Below we explain. Originally possessing prajna wisdom, there is no difference from people of great wisdom. Why, upon hearing the Dharma, does one not awaken? Originally, prajna wisdom, is it not the same as people of great wisdom? Prajna wisdom has no difference from people of great wisdom. Why can these people, like small trees and small grass, not awaken upon hearing the Dharma? Did we not say earlier, they all have Tathagata essence, they all have prajna wisdom? Then their prajna wisdom and the wisdom of people with great root capacity, is their prajna wisdom not without difference? Then why, when hearing the Diamond Sutra, like small grass encountering rainwater, are they immediately destroyed? Why is this? Every sentient being possesses Tathagata essence. Why is it that when some people encounter emptiness, they can maintain it, while some people cannot maintain it? Do they not originally have the same prajna wisdom? Why is this? Here a question is raised. If originally possessing wisdom with no difference from great persons, why can they not awaken upon hearing the Dharma? Some people, upon hearing the Diamond Sutra, like the Sixth Patriarch, immediately awakened. In the middle of the night at the teacher's place, hearing one teaching, they awakened. Some people have already heard several teachings. Not only can they not awaken, but their attachments become greater and greater. Why? If they truly have Tathagata wisdom, why is this? Below it explains, originally it exists, but indeed in the world one must acknowledge there are two kinds of patterns. There is a kind of people with slightly sharp faculties who, with the help of a karmic condition, immediately awaken. In the Han region, there are such people, as well as in Tibetan areas and other places. For some, regarding their Buddha nature, there is no difference. But as they wander in cyclic existence, there is still a certain difference. Because of wrong views and heavy obscurations, the roots of afflictions are deep. Like great clouds covering the sun, without wind blowing, sunlight does not appear. In their nature, there is no difference, but because sentient beings' karmic conditions are different, there are many people of small root capacity, people of evil, inferior root capacity. In their mind streams, there are very serious wrong views of self and grasping at what belongs to self. Self and grasping at what belongs to self originally do not exist at all, but they have very deep wrong views. Also, the root afflictions of greed, anger, and delusion, and other latent afflictions are deeply rooted. In appearance, greed, anger, delusion, and grasping at self and what belongs to self and so forth are equivalent. This, originally, the sun in its essence, there is nothing covering it. But temporarily, in appearance, dark clouds are densely distributed, and finally sunlight has no way to manifest. Once one encounters an especially great gale that blows away all the clouds and mist, sunlight will reappear again. But if one does not encounter such a gale, it will always be covered. Similarly, worldly ordinary beings all originally possess Tathagata essence, but if they do not encounter the gale of a spiritual teacher, do not encounter the gale of instructions, the sunlight of their self-nature is originally very difficult to liberate. All sentient beings completely possess Buddha nature. Because of being covered by ignorance, they do not attain liberation. All sentient beings originally possess Buddha nature, but because of ignorance and afflictions, temporarily it is like the sun being covered by dark clouds. If one does not encounter a spiritual teacher like a karmic condition of a gale, indeed one's own nature has no way to manifest clearly. Therefore, for us to encounter instructions is indeed also very important. So here, regarding the nature, one can say this. Regarding sentient beings possessing Tathagata essence, there is no difference. But temporarily, they are covered by various obscurations. Some, because these obscurations are very deep, temporarily cannot attain liberation. With deluded mind seeing externally, practicing and seeking Buddha, not awakening to self-nature, this is small capacity. If awakening to sudden teaching, not grasping at external practice, but in one's own mind, constantly generating right view, afflictions and defilements constantly cannot defile. This is seeing the nature. Where to break would be better, I also do not know. Today I had meetings all day, did not look at this carefully. Teaching in front of you all is still somewhat challenging. Master, please do not criticize me. Today was too busy. There was no way. I did not look at it. Next time I will definitely look at it carefully. Every day teaching in front of you all, I'm also very tired. Here it says this, Prajna wisdom originally has no size. Therefore, all sentient beings differ only in the awakening or delusion of their self-nature. For every sentient being, regarding prajna, wisdom, and Tathagata essence, there is no superiority or inferiority. They are exactly the same. Generally, among animals and humans, some have high intelligence, some have low intelligence. All sentient beings in their nature have no difference. There is only one difference. Some sentient beings are deluded, some sentient beings are awakened. We can also see this point. For the same issue, for example, now in the world, attachment to money. Some people regard money very lightly. They have a certain level of realization. Therefore, it does not bring them suffering. Some people are especially attached to money. Therefore, it brings them very great suffering. Therefore, in nature, in self-nature, there is no difference. In external objects, there is also no difference. It is only that the depth of one's own attachment has a certain difference. The suffering brought is also not the same. It seems I previously saw the sutra on the bodhisattva descending from Tushita heaven into mother's womb. Ordinary beings and noble sages equal without superiority or inferiority only when the defilements of the mind are extinguished. Obtaining realization is as easy as turning over one's palm. The only difference is whether the defilements of our mind are extinguished or not. If the defilements of the mind are extinguished, obtaining realization is as easy as turning over one's palm. Very quickly one grasps this matter. In our daily life, this is also easy to see. For example, in the world there are two people. One person is especially attached to relationships. One person is not attached to relationships at all. Similarly, their partner died, left, or abandoned them. For the one without attachment, if the partner wants to leave, she can leave. It does not matter. For him, it is nothing at all. But the other person, if he doesn't have such realization, such awakened nature, he is especially suffering, immediately begin to suffer. That day, someone said, for 2 or 3 years, I oscillated between death and life. I died, then left, then came back to life, then died again, then came back to life again, for a small issue, oscillating between death and life. But generally speaking, there is no need to die or to live. If they had a little bit of realization, similarly for any phenomena in the world now, if one has a little bit of realization, they will not have such suffering and attachment. A simple worldly issue can also explain originally prajna wisdom has no superiority or inferiority. It is only the difference between sentient beings' delusion and awakening. Then below, how are delusion and awakening differentiated? With deluded mind seeing externally, practicing and seeking Buddha, not awakening to self-nature. This is small capacity. Our so-called mind now is deluded, constantly seeking a Buddha outside, especially those with not very good capacity. When they practice in another place, there is a Buddha with excellent marks and characteristics. Or now worldly people regard Buddha as another kind of being, for example, a worldly deity or a worldly creator and so forth, in another distant place seeking a Buddha. Actually, this is provisional teaching. Truly searching from one's own mind is most ultimate. This is a kind of external seeking. Such people fundamentally have not realized their own nature. They can be called people of small capacity. Now in our world, generally the human and celestial vehicle, the Shravaka's vehicle, these all seek realization externally, if awakening to sudden teaching, not grasping at external practice. Like Vajrayana or in Mahayana Buddhism, what is it like? It is seeking from within the mind. If seeking Buddha from within the mind, then one does not practice externally, only seeking within one's own right view. At that time, all afflictions, adventitious defilements, external ego-grasping, wrong views will not defile you. Completely abiding in the process of one's own mind, one will see the original face of one's own mind. This method should be most sublime in Vajrayana. Therefore, many principles of Chan, if you want to explain them theoretically or through other logical reasoning, to explain the true truth, then Vajrayana must be studied. Some teachings of Tantra, not to mention other thousands of sutras and treatises, studying the great net of illusion or reciting the names of Manjushri, one will also understand. Originally, principles that are not especially clear in Chan teachings, actually in Tantra, with very simple language, directly point them out to you. At such a time, when we originally study Buddhism and seek the Dharma, at the beginning, do we need to seek externally or not? We do. At the beginning, indeed, our capacity has not yet reached this level. Yesterday, I spoke about relying on a teacher in the same way. In the end, actually, one realizes within the mind. From ancient times, the path of attainment of great masters and adepts is also like this. Therefore, at that time, it should be a sudden awakening within the mind. Therefore, I often think now, in Chinese Buddhism, some individual people say, that tantric attainment in this very life is unreasonable. How can it be so fast? They say this. Actually, this is a phenomenon of not understanding Chan teachings at all. If one understood, you see, Tantra often speaks of attainment in 6 months or 3 years, 7 years attainment. The Sixth Patriarch actually took 8 months, 6 months plus 2 more months, a few months difference. If, speaking theoretically, perhaps he had not even graduated from elementary school, perhaps it is somewhat difficult to explain from worldly conceptual language. But indeed, sometimes we need a kind of intuition. This realization cannot be completely inferred using worldly logic. Many teachers in universities are also quite pitiful. They very much want to research Buddhism, but they only have theory, no practice. Therefore, every day they use a kind of archaeology, taking written words. They work very hard. It seems many have already been working. Previously, when I went to Europe and America, at that time, some experts, their hair had not turned white. They were always working hard, researching Tibetan Buddhism. Now, still half their hair has turned white, still working hard. It looks quite good, but now they still do not understand. Some, it appears, their spirit is very commendable. I also said in person, your spirit is very commendable, but lacking actual practice and actual realization. If there is nothing in terms of actual practice and actual realization, completely using various kinds of texts, various kinds of methods, then going around asking, going around interviewing, one may not necessarily completely know. Therefore, in Buddhism, there is also something within the mind. Both rationality and intuition are needed. Originally, I wanted to finish explaining this sentence. Let me finish it. You see, even without that, I can still teach. Good friends, neither dwelling internally nor externally, coming and going freely, able to remove the grasping mind, penetrating thoroughly without obstruction. Being able to cultivate this practice is fundamentally no different from the Prajnaparamita Sutra. Good friends, neither dwelling internally nor externally. When truly without attachment regarding external objects, also not dwelling, not grasping regarding the internal mind, also not grasping, already having no attachment internally or externally, completely penetrating emptiness, just as explained in the sutra ornament, because bodhisattvas have no attachment whatsoever. Therefore, in cyclic existence, they can be like entering a garden, coming and going freely without suffering. Explaining it this way may be better, neither dwelling internally nor externally, having no attachment to all phenomena. Because of having no attachment, they completely realize emptiness. At such a time, entering the 6 realms of cyclic existence is like entering a garden. In appearance, they can go, but their mind is not like us ordinary sentient beings. We ordinary sentient beings in cyclic existence have various kinds of gain and loss worries. We are like this. But actually, bodhisattvas, in appearance, living together with us people, together with us worldly people, actually their coming and going are all free. When they want to leave, whenever they pass into nirvana, they have already left. Whenever they come, they transform into a sentient being and immediately manifest. In the 6 realms of cyclic existence also, they are very free and at ease, because they have already removed all attachment. All worldly and supramundane, ultimate and conventional, they penetrate without obstruction. At this time, being able to practice in this way is fundamentally no different from what is taught in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, because in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, temporarily in appearance, all illusory dreamlike phenomena exist. But in their nature, all phenomena are without coming, without going, without external, without internal. Just as explained in Madhyamaka, when do we completely penetrate the emptiness teaching of neither dwelling internally nor externally? When we truly realize this state in appearance, in cyclic existence, we can also leave and stay without intention, but actually without any truly existent attachment. This is also a great matter that we many ordinary sentient beings very much admire and aspire to. If we do not penetrate in this way, although we temporarily obtain some aspects of life, it is equivalent to a kind of painkiller, temporarily suppressing your suffering. Now, much spiritual culture may temporarily resolve a portion, but if we want to resolve the great problem for life after life, we need prajna emptiness, the cutting diamond sutra, the cutting Prajnaparamita Sutra, to cut off our seeds. When these seeds are completely destroyed, Only then can we completely attain liberation. Therefore, it is explained here, sentient beings in the degenerate age actually very much need the prajna, emptiness teaching. Of course, on the surface, actually each generation is inferior to the previous one. In the Sutra of the Transmission of the Dharma Treasury, it is also explained, the Buddha told his disciples, after I pass into nirvana, the capacity of people on the first day compared with the root capacity of the second day, the first day is superior. The second day compared with the third day, the second day is superior. Therefore, each day is inferior to the previous day. Then after the Buddha's nirvana, now more than 2,500 years, at that time, people who attained fruition were also numerous. At that time, the wisdom of arhats and great accomplished beings, now compared with us, indeed in realization and all aspects there are difficulties, but the root capacity of us people who come to this world at this time, compared with the root capacity of sentient beings 5,000 years later, we are still very fortunate. Therefore now we accept these teachings. The great majority of people can basically accept them. At this time, oneself cannot treat it like a worldly class. I feel that a person's valuing of a Dharma text cannot be just temporarily hearing one class and after hearing it, that is the end. Actually, these Dharma texts should be considered the most precious tool for eternally resolving extremely great problems. If we treat them this way, through textual prajna, we can resolve extremely great problems of ourselves.
Bandharangara Badna Sodargye Bandharangara Badna Sodargye Bandharangara Badna Sodargye